Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Morley.
And today we are joined by CEO of Masters of Self University and spiritual leader, Rachel Fiori.
Hey, Rachel.
Hello, everybody. Rachel, we're so honored to have you here with us today because we want to dive into a very timely topic. For those of you who don't know, a huge story that has hit mainstream is the huge fashion retailer Balenciaga. It has been getting criticized and a lot of heat because of their disturbing holiday ad campaign, which is depicted sexualization of children holding teddy bears in bondage and a lot of other disturbing details. We're not here to talk about the story, but we're here to talk about sex trafficking and child pornography. It's going to be a heavy topic, but we just think it's time for us to really discuss the things that people don't want to talk about. And I know, Danny, when you and I read this story, you went deeper into it than I could because I couldn't handle a lot of it. But do you want to start us off before we ask Rachel all the things that we want to be asking?
Yeah, took a deep dive, and I encourage everyone, if they're interested in kind of understanding more the truth, to take that journey too and start doing their own research. And when I went in and started looking at all of this, I could really feel my truth detector going off. I was starting to connect to the collective pain that these individuals were going through. I was having visions of, I kept on seeing this young boy, brown hair, so I knew it wasn't me because I grew up blonde. It wasn't an inner child of myself that I was seeing. And he was having all these terrible things done to him. I could feel his pain and he was crying. I could feel his sadness and his lack of hope and helplessness. And that was what started to drive me into saying, okay, I feel like the universe is presenting me with this because it's coming up in the collective and it's time to honestly look at it. And whereas in the past, I might have just turned a blind eye and said, oh, it can't be happening. No way, like impossible. And started diving deeper into it with more openness now. And this is everything that you've taught me, Rachel, is to deprogram myself, to get outside of the being trapped in the mind and just on this default mode network that we constantly run on, and start asking some deeper questions of what could be happening in society. And is this true? And the more and more I went into it, the more it was bringing up a lot of guilt and a lot of shame within myself. And I urge anyone, if they do go down this path and they do want to look more about what could be happening, just be very present with what it triggers in you, what it's bringing up in you, because ultimately the place that it led me to is to understand that there are some horrific things that happen out in the world. There's some darkness out there. And we're here to try and bring an end to that, to bring that darkness to the light, to see where I'm that too. And ultimately, I had to come to the place to realize there are some monstrous things that I've done. There are things that I've done in my past that I'm no angel, I'm no saint. I didn't walk through life on a cloud, not doing anything wrong. And every time that I've done that, there is a big part of guilt and shame that is created in me to let me know that I have fallen off from grace. I have fallen from my divine path. And as I've gone deeper and deeper into this topic, it's just allowed me to sit with the shame and the guilt of doing things that may have caused harm, that weren't at the highest level of my soul's journey in this earth. But then also not shaming myself for feeling the shame, not shaming myself for feeling the guilt, for just coming to a place of presence with it and allowing whatever it's bringing up to just be there and be okay with that and acknowledge it bring it to the light and say, yes, I've done this thing which I'm not proud of. And by me seeing it and seeing it for what it is and still loving myself for that, I can start to alchemize and transmute these energies that led me down that path before. And what I saw in society is a bunch of people who have got completely lost. And myself, I've been there too. I've got completely lost. I know I've mentioned on this podcast before, pornography addiction. Like, I started accessing that stuff at such a young age. And when you pair that with what I've seen, which is how society, and especially Hollywood and the media, over-sexualizes everything, all of a sudden, these things which you're seeing behind closed doors, they're now also being like justified in school and in society and in Hollywood, and the way women are encouraged to use their body in a sexual way and men are encouraged to want that and desire it. And all of a sudden we're completely programmed and getting lost in this place where we're completely removing the sacredness of a human, and we're completely objectifying who and what they are. And when we do this, we severely fall from grace. And the more times we do that, the more guilt and shame is accumulated within us, and thus leads us down this spiral until we can stop and become conscious enough to go, wow, look at what harm I'm doing to myself. Look at what harm I'm doing to another. It's time to end these cycles of guilt, shame, unworthiness, powerlessness, and weakness, and step into our divinity. So that's kind of my experience with it, and I saw. Rachel?
Yeah, what a beautiful introduction. Thank you for that. Lots of things to talk about here. And I think where I'm going to start with this is, you brought up something really important, Danny, and that's when we're not awakened enough, and we're not, here's the real word, when we are not powerful enough in our own divinity, when I'm not powerful enough in my own divinity, I'm not connected to my higher soul, my divine power, my light. When I don't have that, what do I do when stories like this come out, when women talk about what's happened to them, stories of children, of little girls and little boys? We run a program of dismissiveness. Oh, you must be exaggerating. That isn't real. You must be lying. And that is a program. Dismissiveness of these types of things is a program, is a subprogram of powerlessness. It's also a subprogram of, oftentimes, denial. Why denial? Well, I want to deny that because anything that I have ever done that could contribute to what you're talking about, I don't want to look at, I don't want to see, I don't want to acknowledge within myself. I want to go on and bury my head in the sand and pretend like I don't contribute to that stuff. Now, ding, 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 a lot of alarm bells are going off for people when I say, they're like, wait a minute, but like, I don't rape children. Or I don't look at child pornography. What are you talking about? I don't contribute to that. Oh, careful, because this is what we learn, the goddamn truth of how we do contribute to supporting these things in society when we are not awakened enough, which means we're not powerful enough, connected to our divine light enough as an individual and as collective humans. We do contribute and support this stuff out there. Just because you're not raping children yourself, just because you're not looking at child pornography yourself, doesn't mean you're not contributing to a system that supports this. That's what we want to learn and wake up to first, because we can't heal this on the planet if we can't first wake up to that. And that means we have to learn to heal ourselves in all the ways we have contributed to, number one, objectification of any other human being. Objectification is huge. That we have to learn what it means to objectify. What does that really mean? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? How do I act out and carry out programs of objectification? Because if I can't even get that, I can't start there and heal that within myself, then you are contributing to a world and to systems that do harm to other people on this planet of all ages. You are supporting a system that does that level of harm. Sex trafficking is a real thing. And yes, you're supporting it by, you have your own porn addiction. It doesn't have to be child pornography. You are objectifying people and women, which means violence towards them. They're not real. You're dehumanizing them by objectifying them. You are contributing to the dehumanization of a group of people when that is what you are spending your time on. That's what you are over sexualizing and masturbating to. It's healing that within yourself means you will then not tolerate other people doing it. You will say no, you will stand up, you will rise up. You will not allow it to happen in whatever capacity you can contribute to the termination of it. You are not going to contribute to ending these things on the planet if you don't take a look at yourself first, heal yourself first in your own individual programs of objectification, dismissiveness, denial. If you don't heal that within yourself, if you don't heal your own addictions and the way that you over-sexualize, the way that you view sex, period, end, and stop making the excuses of, but I don't look at children. Because that part doesn't even matter. If you objectify, you're contributing to the system of the world system that we have that creates these things and allows it to continue. That's where we're going to start.
Yeah. A lot of things came up for me as you were speaking. One of the things is, we live in a world right now where the objection of women is just, it's rampant. And as you were talking, I saw this clip recently of two huge female rappers. And one of the rappers is like twerking and humping the floor. And the other one is deep throating a mic. And the entire audience is just screaming and like, there's like woo-hooing them and cheering them on. And I saw that for the first time and I was like, oh, I see it all. We contribute to this by thinking this is okay, by saying this is cool and this is fun and this is what we should do. And this is just entertainment, right? They're just entertaining us. And it's like, no, this is how we contribute to the cycle. And even as something as, I love celebrity men. That was like, I worked in Hollywood for a long time. And I wrote this comment a couple of months ago on like a Ryan Gosling video. And I wrote, he's so hot. And I caught myself. And even in that, I was in that cycle of creating this energy of complete just looking at him and his body, right? And going, he's so hot. And then everyone chimes in and like likes my comment. They go, he is hot. And I'm like, no, this is how I contribute to all of this. Who am I to sit here and look at him and objectify him and say that he's hot just because I'm a woman that's more accepted? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing as a man looking at a woman and going, she's so hot, I'd love to bang her.
Yep, exactly. It's that objectifying because we see them as objects for our entertainment. And when you are nothing but an object, what do we do with objects when we no longer want them? How do we treat objects? We don't care about them. We don't honor them. It is impossible to honor them. You are not the way of honoring one of the 20 universal ways of oneness. You are not the way of equality. You are creating inequality when you objectify another. Period, end, man or woman. When you objectify, you cannot create oneness consciousness. You cannot create divinity. You cannot create the way of connection, which is a healthy connection, a divine connection between two people or among others. You cannot create the way of equality, the way of honoring. You can't be divine. You're not divine when you objectify. Because the truth is, it makes zero difference if he's hot or not. Zero difference. What kind of a person is he? What kind of an actor? Is he an amazing? Oh, let's highlight his skills and his abilities, because the truth of it all, when we objectify something as superficial as our physical vessels. That's the most superficial and the most fleeting things about us as humans anyway. It is the most fleeting things about it. You do not look the way that you look for very fucking long. You grow, you age, all different phases and stages of developing throughout a lifespan, depending on how long you live. That is the most superficial and meaningless thing, is what your meat suit looks like. And yet, in our superficial unconscious society, that's what we weight the heaviest, that's the most important thing, is about how you look. And guess why we do that? We're refusing to be divine, powerful beings ourselves, which is why we keep everyone out there as superficial, as objects to us that are we live in that surface level, superficial, materialistic bullshit because we refuse to do the work and go deeper and become a more magnificent version of ourselves. Why do we refuse to do it? Whether we realize we're refusing it or not, we're afraid we're not good enough to become magnificent. That's the deeper fear. And so it's easier to engage in what society says is acceptable and creating all these problems on the planet it's easier to do that instead of choose to go against the grain, wake up, grow up, mature, become more powerful, become more divine, where we no longer objectify other people on this planet, period, end. That I see you as a divine soul, and I see you for you, and I get to honor you, and I get to celebrate you for your incredible skills and genius, whatever that means for you. And I learn to honor myself in the same way for my incredible skills and genius, whatever that means for me. When I can do that for myself because I'm healed, whole, powerful, I am the way of connection with my divine self, which means I get to show up that way for other people. And now the superficial shit doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. That's just temporary, fleeting shit anyway, and you don't pay much attention to it. And it doesn't mean you don't celebrate the fact that you're young and hot and sexy for a period of time, but that goes away real quick. Like, wake up. Like, how quick does that fucking go away? You look in the mirror, you're like, holy shit, age comes on real quick. Trust me, I'm old enough. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you get uglier by the fucking month. When you reach a certain age, it's like, holy shit, that went by fast. And it's also like, well, okay, that's part of life. Who the fuck cares? Because my essence doesn't get older and uglier and more wrinkly and more grotesque. My essence only becomes more powerful and divine. So guess what? You couldn't pay me 10 billion motherfucking dollars to go back to being 25 years old. I'm very happy at 45. Thank you very much. Even if my vessel on the outside looks uglier all the goddamn time, I don't fucking care. You couldn't pay me to go back and do it again. I'm more powerful and divine now. That is priceless, 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 because I get to do powerful, wonderful, loving, divine things for myself and for other people on this planet. I get to address issues like this, where at 22 years old, I didn't fucking know anything other than, oh my God, it's important what I look like. Am I sexy enough for the men who want to fuck me? I don't know. Let me show more skin. Get the fuck out of here. Grow up. Knock that shit off. We got to end this stuff. We got to end it.
And as I was going into this, that age, early 20s, I started looking at all the times that, alcohol was always involved in any kind of like sexual thing. And I had during the first, I'm going to be like, just be vulnerable and be honest about my journey here. Like through my first few years of university, I had a girlfriend, right? And I was very faithful and that was never an issue. And then halfway through, like my time in college, I was single and I felt like I had to make up for lost time and all this programming from society of how I should be and how to be a man, I needed to be sleeping with multiple women at the same time. And it fueled this period in my life where now I look back on and I can see I was a predator. And I had to get to a place where I could actually look at that within myself and say, yeah, this is how you showed up, like a monster, like a predator, going out with the intention, like, who am I gonna hook up with tonight?
Yep.
And while you're in it, this young, naive guy is just trying to fit in, just trying to feel connection. You know, that's what you talk about, the way of connection. I'm just trying to look for that, not realizing all I have to do is learn the skills to find that within. And instead, everything we've been taught from society is look for it out there, look for it from a woman for one night, and you will be the king of the world. You will feel on top of the world. And finally getting to a place where I'm like, no, I want to look at this, because my mind, when I was going into this, started justifying, started saying, this is what all guys do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the deflection. Oh, okay. Well, this is what everyone does, so it's fine. And as we go into like this whole paradigm of like, oh, well, this is what everyone does, well, then you're just lost in what everyone does, and you're not thinking for yourself about what you really want to do and what you're really looking for. And you look at society, you look at media, this is exactly what the programming coming through is. And we're not here to pick apart and say, why is that coming through? That's for other podcasts. That's for your own journey. But what we're saying is become aware of what it is that you're being programmed to see from everything, and then look at what it's bringing up in you. Look at where there's like an energy, because it literally is. I've felt this before. It feels like a dark force that's pulling you in. When I went and studied the sex industry in Amsterdam, we literally went through my university to go study pleasure, leisure, tolerance, and disgust. It was a fantastic course. And it's so cool because you mentioned the word tolerance in here, and we tolerate so much because we're programmed to believe that. And it's until this work, until you start really diving deep on, why am I doing this thing? Why am I in denial about how I'm lacking divinity? Why am I denying this part of me that wants to not cause harm to another? And the forces that are out there trying to pull you into these low vibratory states, they're large and they're big and they're real. And we have to, and the weak part of us just gets pulled right in and says, yeah, I want to fit in. I want to be accepted. I want to be a man. I want to be a man in this society and sleep with all the women and do all that. And it's not until we start doing the inner work that we can be like, oh, that was all someone else trying to get me to do it. So what do I want? What does the highest version of me want? And that's not to spread harm. That's not to objectify. That's to tap in, connect, treat all others as equal, respect the sacredness of a woman. For God's sake, like really respect that. And that's how we evolve out of this, is through the inner work. But we do have to acknowledge it within ourselves and not be in denial of saying, well, that's them. I don't do anything. I'm separate from all that darkness. I don't watch pornography anymore. Well, what else have you done in your past that you're denying or you're separating it from? Because now we tap into everything that you mentioned about the oneness. We are a collective. And if we in ourselves are not willing to look at what's happening in the collective, well, then we're causing that separation and saying, not me, that's you. That's your problem. Go figure it out.
Exactly.
And it's everybody's problem, because it's within us all, because we are all one.
And it affects us all. And it affects us all. It affects our friends, our family members, our children, our neighbors, our communities, because your neighbors, your children, women are being taken out of the grocery store parking lot, for Christ's sake. How do we say, not me, I'm going to look the other way, when this is something that's happening every day? To say, no divine person would say, that's not an issue of mine. An issue with you in the collective is an issue with me, because we are one. And some of it is, well, I mean, I can't possibly be involved in everything that's going on. No, but you can start with yourself. You can start with yourself. You can start by doing the inner work and actually waking up to the ways that you do contribute in harmful ways to all of these things, instead of being in denial about the ways that you have contributed and helped create this in society. That's where you start, and deal with the shame. I don't want to go. The shame's going to come. That's good. That is a good thing. That lets you know you're going on the other side to no longer create shameful, harmful things. When you feel the shame, that means you're ready to see it, feel it, heal it. You're ready to own it. You're ready to no longer be that anymore. So moving through the shame is an important part of healing for people, whatever it is that you've done. Even if it was just you were really shitty to your ex. It could be something as simple as that. I did not treat her. I did not treat him well at all. I did blah, blah, blah. That alone, waking up to, well, what is it that you did? What programs were you running? Are you ready to heal that within yourself so that's no longer who you are? And no, oh, I don't do that anymore. Because what, you suppress it now? Did you alchemize it? Shit doesn't die. We're all energy. Energy never dies. That part of you continues to project out into the world to create the reality that we see out there that we think is so separate from the reality in here. That's what we need to wake up to. That's where we start. That's the place where people start. Because I get asked that a lot, but this is something so big. But other people are now handling that. You're right. Thank God. Other people are tackling these things in ways that you might not be equipped to do, trained to do. It might not be your mission to go directly and heal some of these things in the world, to directly try to dismantle the sex trafficking industry, for example. However, what you can do is dismantle the programs that simply by being alive on this planet, you contribute to in our world. And when you do things and say things like, boys will be boys, you're fucking creating sex trafficking on this planet.
Exactly.
That right there.
Yeah.
When you teach men to suppress their emotions and become weak, pathetic, emotionally fragile, instead of, oh, you're feeling something. Let's learn how to deal with our feelings, little one. And you start in childhood and boyhood. And you teach men how to actually process and move through their pain so they can become powerful, divine men versus these emotional, fragile little creatures who are crying out there because they don't get enough sex anymore because women are waking up and they're done putting up with the crap that we've dealt with in a toxic masculine society for thousands of years. And then it's like, what's happening to men out there? Aw, you don't get to have sex so much. That's going on in the world right now. That has everything to do with sex trafficking and child pornography, because we're teaching our society, I mean our global society, that sex is a need and that men are entitled to it. And we wonder why these dark things are happening on massive scales. So no, it is our job to go inside of each individual person in a divine way and teach each young boy, each man, each woman how to connect to their divinity and heal all the shit that says that something like sex is just your choice, a need, do whatever you want. It's your whoa, we need to be a little more mature than that. We need to be a little bit more sacred than that. And no, it doesn't mean celibacy and all the shit you learn in fucking religious bullshit. Sorry, religions. 2 thumbs down to you. It's time for you to be dismantled as well. Talk about sex industry going on behind closed doors in the whole religious community too. So let me just throw that out there. Yeah, you're 2 thumbs down to you too, formalized religion. Sorry, you got to go too. You got to go too. You've been hiding this shit for so many years, covering it all up too. So bye-bye. You're being exposed as well when it comes to all of this. You know, no more like sweeping it under the rug and pretending like churches and things are not involved in this kind of crap. Some of the biggest porn addictions that exist that has been exposed now for a good decade has been in religious institutions. So, you know, we're talking about a lot of things here that we need to wake up to. No tolerance for this anymore. No tolerance, but no tolerance in a divine way. The only way to have zero tolerance for this crap out there, for the misogyny, for the sexism, for all the pornography, for the child, for everything that's happening in sex trafficking of all ages of people, the only way to have no tolerance and to heal it is to heal what leads to it to begin with. And that means we need to learn to wake up and join coaching programs that teach you how to connect to your power, how to heal all the crap that helps you to contribute to this crap, and to heal that within yourself so you're no longer contributing. And then what you're offering to the world is harmlessness and gentleness. And then you're teaching other people, children, other boys who grow up to be men, who are the biggest offenders of all of this stuff. You are teaching them how to connect to a divine power that they can be proud of, that they can shine their light on this planet instead of spread their darkness.
Yeah. Rachel, what we've witnessed in our world is they've destroyed men, right? Men can't feel anything. Then they've come after women to just be pieces of meat. And now with this whole campaign that came out, it's almost like they're trying to normalize the sexualization of children, to ease that, to slide that in, right? And that to me feels like the bottom of the barrel. That to me feels like the darkest corner of the cave. And when I look at our world, it's like, how did we get here? Because even as you talk about the religion, like there is so much molestation and rape, and we just sweep it. Just like that, just because nobody wants to face the idea or the thought that children are being abused in these horrific ways.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
And murdered.
Yes.
It's not just, it's abuse sexually for sure, but it's clearly, it's a lot more than that. It's a lot more than any of us see right now, because it's all in the shadow. And the more that we're able to look at this, the more that we're able to bring it to light, the more that we'll start to see everything get exposed.
Yes.
The question that I felt it, I understood it from me, but like, why does it feel good? Why are we drawn into these dark states? I can speak on my experiences with like pornography. Mm-hmm. It would be like some energy was drawing me in.
Oh yeah.
And it would feel good for a very short moment while it was happening. And then after, it would feel gross.
Yeah.
Why does it feel good? Or why do we think it's going to feel good?
Yeah. So good question. So first, let's say afterwards, it would feel gross. Afterwards, what you felt is the damage, the tarnish that you just did to your soul.
Yeah.
That's first of all. That's the tarnish that you just did. So the I feel shame, I feel and then we want to quickly go do something else to take our mind off of it. That's a very common pattern, right? Especially for like porn addiction, and even substance abuse, even substance addiction, by the way. Very similar things that people experience. So simply put, what you feel, the shame, what you feel, how gross it feels right after you use somebody, right after you masturbate to porn, whatever it might be, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. You feel the grossness of it because that is the energetic aftermath. That's the quote unquote energetic consequence of what you've done to your divine self. Your divine self is now experiencing the consequence of what your unconscious human self just chose to engage in. That's why it feels gross after. So pleasure, short-term pleasure. So think about this. Darkness fuels darkness. Darkness needs to feed off of darkness. Evil needs to feed off of evil, for example. So you have these dark, gross, unconscious, unhealthy, horrible, evil energies. It's one way to put it. That want to draw you in to fuel and create more of that energy. Remember, energy never dies, but it can be transformed. It can be alchemized. So the more people are pulled into all this gross, grotesque, horrific shit, because it's on so many levels, the more people are pulled in, the more they're fueling the darkness of it. And they're putting that dark energy out into the world to spread and trap other people in it. The more we wake up to what is really happening and my participation in what's really happening in the world, how I contribute on an energetic level, who am I in any given moment? What am I contributing in any given moment to the whole world by who I am showing up as in any given moment on an energetic level? Am I the Am I showing up right now as the ways of oneness, the universal ways of oneness, aspects of oneness consciousness? Am I showing up in that way right now as the way of responsibility, as the way of integrity, as the way of honoring, as the way of truth, as the way of compassion, etc.? There's 20 of them. Am I showing up in these ways, or am I not? And if I'm not, I'm creating darkness on this planet. It's that simple, right? So we get trapped in what we think feels good and the pleasure of it, because think about this. If you are the darkness in that moment, what feels good to keep you alive, meaning to
darkness.
keep is darkness.
Yeah.
It's the regeneration of the refueling of the darkness, refueling itself. That's why it feels good temporarily. I'm revamping, I'm reliving, I am rejuvenating myself. I'm becoming stronger right now by engaging in whatever darkness, by engaging in, objectification and violence towards women and children, whatever it might be. I'm refueling myself. So the darkness comes up, it's taken over, and it's rejuvenating itself. It's becoming stronger. It's living. It's its life force. That's its life force. When you wake up to that and you say, oh, so that's living inside of me is trying to rejuvenate itself. It's trying to become more powerful. It's trying to make sure it doesn't die. If I wake up to that, I can then get the coaching, gain the skills, gain the power that I need in order to choose something different on an energetic level, grow the power of my divinity. I can learn the process of what it actually means, the process of this, not just some concept, to choose my divinity in that moment, to grow the power of my divinity, because boy, this darkness wants to take me over. Boy, those cravings, oh, the impulses. Oh, I really want to go masturbate to that porn right now. I can learn the process of how to make the choice of divinity and then grow and strengthen the light within me, which then I use that light to alchemize, transform the darkness inside of me. Here's the biggest mistake people make. They do what I call translocation. The darkness, I'm going to avoid it. Oh, I'm going to go to healing. I'm going to go do all these holistic things to heal myself. And all you're doing is pushing out the darkness. You might be healing through, and it could be literally through acupuncture, through all these methods that people use. It could be any holistic healing method. I'm going to do I'm going to do this. I'm going to do quantum touch. I'm going to do Reiki. I'm going to do energy, whatever. I'm going to go use healing and help me get rid of this stuff. That's translocation. It's not fucking healing. What does that mean? Energy never dies. It has to be alchemized and transformed into a different form. So we often go do all these healing things with a complete and utter ignorance that all we're doing, even if the healing is quote unquote successful, it isn't successful. You've maybe removed it from yourself, but all you've done is put it out. Now that darkness goes to the closest person near you. It goes out into the world. It goes to the healer themselves. I think healers that don't really know what they're doing over time, you're like, oh my God, there's powerful healing in the world. What? They were raping women? They had taken on all the damn darkness of the people they're healing, and they don't know any better. They're in ignorance with their damn healing because they got caught up in, oh, look at me, I'm a powerful healer.
Wow.
And then they start doing the very things they're trying to heal people from. The darkness doesn't die. Let's jump real quick to some extreme. You know I like those. Let's even go to the extreme of some demonic possession that somebody wants to get an exorcist. I have criticized this shit for as long as I've been alive in this fucking lifetime, and I'll guarantee you I've probably done it for the last 40 lifetimes I've lived as a human. Stop it with the fucking get the religious people to come in and do a fucking exorcist or whatever. That is not, no. Why no? All you're doing, if you're quote unquote successful, you've removed this dark demonic thing from a human. Where did it go, you idiots? All you did was put it back out in the world for it to go get someone else. So even with that extreme example, we need to wake up and connect to our internal power that goes into the darkness and fucking alchemizes that shit. Goes into my programs, goes into what I'm doing that's harmful on this planet. I wake up, I own it. The first way of oneness, the way of responsibility is to do the real work. And that also means I'm the one responsible for growing the power of my light, my divinity. I am a powerful goddamn being. And you learn what that means. You learn how to grow that power. And by becoming more powerful in your light, you literally alchemize the darkness. You alchemize it. You transform the energy permanently. It can never go back to being dark. It can lure more darkness. It can lure people to contribute to create the darkness. But if you're a powerful light being, you're not afraid of darkness. You don't avoid it. You don't dismiss it. You don't say that didn't happen. She lied. Oh, that can't be real. You are allowing darkness to be alive on this planet. You're allowing things like sex trafficking to continue. You're allowing all this rape and horrific torture to happen to women and children and men as well. It's not as common, but it still exists. But by men, you're allowing these men to do these things on this planet by poo-pooing it and dismissing it instead of going and saying, I'm going to start with me. I'm going to grow so damn powerfully in my own light. And that's where I'm going to start, because that's how you make a real difference in this world.
I've got one final question. So as I'm going through these experiences, as all this shame and guilt is coming up for me to look at, and it was literally it's like my soul was taking me on a timeline of all these different things that I've done, and I really wanted to just sit in it and honestly look at it and not allow my mind to justify the behavior and say, yeah, you did this, this is how you showed up like this is in you.
Yeah.
But when I go through these experiences, let's take prostitution for an example. I, again, not proud of it, but I've been there, and I dipped my toe into that whole experience, and it was awful, and I hated it. And I would certainly never do it again, I hope. But I know that for a lot of people out there, they really enjoy it because I've heard them talk about it.
Yep.
If they programmed me about it to even lead me to go experience this. What is it that they're so lost in their programs that they can't feel the divine communication of the shame and the guilt? Why is it that they can't connect afterwards to have that experience of disgust or gross, like, oh, I can't do that again, that they continue to repeat the same pattern over and over again?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, because we have to understand that first and foremost, just a hug from someone for 20 to 30 seconds releases the chemicals, the dopamine, the happy chemicals, the calming chemicals, the chemicals of connection, I sometimes call them. That is one simple example. Why? Because whether you understand what this means or not, oneness consciousness is all that exists. That is the only thing that's real, is that we are all one. So giving a friend, giving your pet a hug, giving your child, giving your intimate, your romantic partner a hug for 20 or 30 seconds, just that physical connection. Somebody's crying and you just hug them and let them cry. It lets what's happening melt away. Right? We actually have chemicals and hormones that are released in our body that calm us down and make us feel better. When we have an orgasm, same damn thing. So what's happening is people are so gone, so fucked up, so dark, so unconscious. Why does this feel good? Why will I continue to pursue this? Because I get moments of that. I get moments of the relaxation, the calming chemicals, the feel good, the happy chemicals are released throughout my physical body for a short period of time. That's what I'm addicted to. And what happens though, you fall down the rabbit hole of, you then lose sight of how harmful, how this promotes violence, how this promotes inequality, all of the things, the objectification. You lose sight of the horrific byproduct of what you're doing because you're out for a quick fix. It is no different than being an addict, a heroin addict. any kind of drug, no fucking different. You get the quick fix momentarily. That's why you keep going back for more. I want that quick fix again. I mean, shit, serial killers do it. This is how dark we don't even realize, oh, what's she talking about? That's crazy. No, it isn't. Serial killer, they get that fix, the feeling after the first kill. And guess what? Guess what they're always doing after that? They're trying to go after that first fix. Drug addicts do the same thing, trying to get that high they had initially when they got that initial high. You're just going after that. Why? Well, because you're a powerless being. That's why. And you're getting superficial, quick fixes that feel good for a moment. And you keep going after that instead of doing the work on yourself to realize you can actually live emotionally free and powerful and feeling good most of the time. And I say most of the time, it's still real life. You're going to have moments of challenge, of fear, of pain, of grief. That's fucking life. Wake up, grow the fuck up, and learn how to become a divinely powerful being who can love and nurture themselves powerfully, lovingly through those times in life where it's going to be hard. But you can do that and then live most of your life happy and free and feeling amazing. Like, that's the difference, is you're free from all of this addicting shit. You're free from causing harm to others, including yourself, when you learn how to do the very thing that we teach at Masters of Self University. Self-empowerment, power, divine power, the power of the light, instead of allowing darkness to overtake people on the planet. That's why people are addicted to this stuff and they keep going back for more. And then they get lost in the darkness by, I don't care how it harms others. I get my quick fix. I need to go back again. I need to go back again. I need to go back again.
Yeah. The lack of connection from the divine within.
Yep.
Oh, I can feel the sadness, the collective in that as you speak. I feel like this should be another part coming soon. I feel like there's so much to tackle. But for anybody out there, if you want to work with any of our mystical coaches, please visit mastersofselfuniversity.com and set up a free consultation with any of us. Thank you, Rachel, for being here and having this beautiful and hard conversation. For anybody at home, please share this episode to those who really need to hear this. This is some deep, deep, deep truth, and it's the wake-up call that many of us need. Subscribe.
Right. I want to jump in. Write your questions in the comments. If you have questions and you want to know more about a specific thing, we will do a part 2. But we want to hear from you. Write your comments, write your questions, and we're happy to dive into more specific areas on this topic if you're curious and you want to know more.
Definitely. Thank you for everyone that's listening at home, and we will see you all on the next episode. Bye for now.